Unspoken with Olivia and Elise. It's been a little short while by the time that you're watching this. Had a little break in between as last episode didn't really go as planned as it should have. Let's say that.
Basically, we are amateurs.
Yes. We are literally beginners, so please. Today we are going to be speaking about neglect of the system. I think neglect of the system is a very big topic because I think you can be neglected by the system in so many different ways. So here we're basically today going to be speaking about our type of how we was neglected by the system. We do have different, we are like kind of like opposite.
Completely different experiences.
Completely different experiences, so hopefully you'll be able to relate to one of the...
Personally, I just think kind of what system?
Yeah, literally.
What system?
What system? At this point there is no system. No system
not
at
unless
all,
it's
is
beneficial for the NHS in a sense, or again, like with your end, social services. Yeah. Shall we start with your end of things and where you...
want to start with mine?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not sure if not many people know this, but shortly after I left school, a good few months, I think about 6 months after I left school, me and my siblings were taken out of my mum's care.
What age was you when you actually was taken out of your mum's care?
So I was 16 when I got taken out of my
And you're the
mum's
eldest
care.
sibling, right?
And I was the eldest, yeah. And I felt like, because, maybe because I worked or maybe because I was 16, it didn't really seem as if I should have been looked after as much as my little ones, if that makes sense, in the social systems.
Yeah.
Just from what I experienced, really. And it was just before the COVID lockdown, and I was living with my auntie, and I remember being took to a foster care placement. And I remember being taken round because
Did you get taken together? Or
no.
So you got separated?
So we got separated.
And how many of you was there?
So there's 4. So
understandable in a sense, but if you was in a foster care placement, so is that a family in particular, or...?
Yeah, so it was a family. It was a local family. Luckily, it was in the town that we live in. Yeah, I got taken to this foster care placement, and because obviously that was going to be my accommodation for a little while. And I can remember being took around the house, and don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with the family, do you know what I mean? Like,
it's just not your family though, is it?
Just not my family. And I can remember, I think it was one of the foster care daughters, or I can't remember if it was their actual daughter, but she took me to my room, was like, this will be your room. And when it's just like, whoa, kind of situation, like, I don't want to be in that. So I said no, I wasn't going. And I think because I refused that care in that sense, because I've just been, I'm trying to get over the fact that I'm never potentially going to live with my siblings again, and I'm being put into another family where, it sounds awful, but there's boundaries that I've never had and that kind of thing. Like it was anxious, to be potentially put in that situation.
Yeah. And
then I throughout lockdown was living with my different auntie. Yeah, it was a better situation for me than, being with a family that I didn't know. I'd rather that than, anything else. And then I went back, not back into my mum's care, but I stayed there for a little while, and I shouldn't have. I wasn't really allowed to, but, I was 16, I just wanted something comforting.
Yeah.
Things didn't change, and after that my uncle took us on, and things didn't work out. So it was me, my 2 sisters, my brother was obviously living with his nan and his dad, and we was with my uncle. Things didn't work out, and that's okay, like, it's one of those things happen. But then we got taken out of my uncle's care, and I can remember social workers telling me it's okay to talk, speak how things really are, that kind of thing. And then me and my sister spoke, and I can remember the social worker at the time, her quote was, there is a big pot of money there, to get me the help that I want.
Yeah.
That was her quote. And So obviously me and my sister.
So that's what basically all comes down to,
kind of
money.
Situation, and there was like, we'll help you. We've got, the funding to help you. We've got things there in place to help you if you do talk and that kind. We talk. Got taken out of that care, and I literally just pretty much got lied to and smacked to the ground. Luckily, one of my sisters, someone who had worked with her through school and that kind of thing, wanted to take my sisters on. So a housing association actually wouldn't really help me because I worked full time, and
which is fucking ridiculous.
Which is crazy. It is. It really is. And I think they told me it was I can remember being on the phone at work, and I'm meant to be at work, but I don't have anywhere to live. That was my priority.
How old are you at this point?
16 still.
Wow.
No, I was 17, sorry. I'd been with my uncle for a year, and I was 17, and it was a couple of months before I turned 18, or even a month. And they were saying, it's going to be 200, and I think it was like £30 a week for shared accommodation. And I was like, do you realise how old I am and what kind of wage I'm on? I was like, that's my wage for the month. I was like, if I give you all of that just to have somewhere to live, I was like, I've not got any money to get to work. I was like, I've got no money to have food, that kind of thing. And I can remember the social services was like, we'll pay it for you until you turn 18. Oh, it was 4 weeks away from me turning 18. So you're offering that help for 4 weeks after you've just promised me the will. Do you know, in my eyes, it was the will. You told me if
the wage doesn't even go up much at 18.
Literally, it really doesn't. And I was like, you've just told me, that you can help me if I speak about the situation I'm in. I've spoken, trusted you. You took me out of that situation, and you've just basically left me to defend myself. Yeah. And the housing association, the worker on the phone, obviously, it's nothing to do
personally.
No, it's no personally. But I can remember her turning around and was like, yeah, so if you drop your hours down to under 20, or if you didn't work, you would actually receive it free. And I was
which is bizarre.
Mind blown. How can you sit there and tell someone to drop a career, or not even work as much for that career, and you get help from the system? But because I work full time, but I'm still in the exact same situation as everybody else.
Yeah.
Because I work full time, apparently, I could probably afford to go get rent. I'm not even 18. I can't even sign a tenancy right now. I can't even go to a private landlord and sign a tenancy. It's not legal.
Yeah.
What do you expect me to do? I was like, that's just mind blowing. If that, how is the system teaching not even young people, if you don't work and you go on the benefit system, you're gonna get stuff handed to you on a plate, and you're gonna get that help. But because I'm actually trying to build a life for myself, it's actually like, no, actually we're just gonna leave you on your own. And council system literally failed me as well. They said I actually was homeless, and I'm sure if anybody's been in through the council situation, you have bans of what you're put on. And even my even my social worker at the time, or once before when I applied, had wrote a letter to say could you please help our housing thing. And I think it was band 3 or band C. It was the third one, and I was like, how am I getting put on the last one? And you're only allowed to bid for a 1-bedroom flat. So 1-bedroom flats are not going to come up often anyway. They don't come
available very often,
Very often anyway, but then I've got to bid for something, and I'm 3 bands down to the top priority. So I'm never going to get anywhere, because, if someone bids for that flat who's in band 1 or band 2, they're obviously going to get it because they're in a higher priority band. So obviously, so in that kind of sense, I was massively fully neglected by the system. But honestly, I think it was one of the hardest things. But like I've always said, if I didn't go through any of the stuff that I've been through, I wouldn't be here now. I wouldn't be the person that I am today. But the reason why I was neglected by the system was because my social worker, when I got taken off my mum, she wrote down the wrong notes. In the social system, if you leave that care, you're not entitled to it. But if you're taken out of the care,
you are entitled.
You're entitled to that support. So if you've ever left care, you're entitled to. They help you find somewhere to live when you turn 18. help you with finances, that kind of thing. Like, they've so much, but if you are on this, you classed as a looked after child, if you are classed as that. But because my social worker wrote down the wrong note, which we didn't find out until a month before I turned 18, so for nearly a year and a half, I was actually on a wrong plan. I was actually meant to be getting loads of support, but we didn't actually find out until we was in this family group conference meeting. So that's when we found out that, you know, for a year I was actually meant to be on this like looked after child situation, but it was too late. The social services then said, it was too late to put me on this plan because it was 4 weeks before I turned 18.
Yeah.
I was actually given that support, and if, you know, the wrong notes wasn't wrote down, then I would probably be in a different place today. So then when obviously I was living with my a family member and whatnot, it was going to crap. I was trying with estate agents, you know. I didn't have a guarantor. I didn't really, you know, like, I don't have that, if that makes sense, to sign for someone to say, you know, I'll pay the rent, you know, if you don't, kind of situation.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of estate agents was like, no. Luckily, I actually come into some inheritance from when my dad passed away when I was younger, and I was able to, you know.
Bad that you have to say luckily. You know what I mean? Luckily,
Literally,
my dad died.
Yeah, literally, like, it's actually, it's bad to say it, but, you know, if I didn't have that, right, I would have been fucked, like, to put it in thingy, I would have been screwed. Like, it was bad, and I was going to a estate agent saying, you know, I'll pay 6 months rent up front, I'll pay 12 months rent up front, but please, and a lot of, like, there was times where the landlord would be like, yeah, and then he'd be like, no, and then, because there has to be the landlord approved, that kind of thing. And then finally, I got accepted, but that was after me giving 12 months rent up front to have somewhere to live. So I passed out nearly £10,000 to have somewhere to live for a year, not knowing, you know, where am I going to live when this 12 months is over, not knowing thingy, but just to have somewhere to live, somewhere I had secured. To pay that, somewhere secure. And it's just, this is what annoys me, because it's like, if the right system was put in place, you know, for young people, or for when people have to leave thingy but they're actually working, so there needs to be things in place, because I was just working full time. Like, that's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to build a career for myself, and you're telling me that I need to either quit my job or drop down half of my hours to receive the care from the system that I should have actually been given in the first place. So yeah, massively, I was neglected by the social system and by the council. So many people abuse the benefit system. Like, do you know how many people sit on their asses, like, all day?
It feels like you have to basically not be working and have kids to be able to get the help
or have children. Do you know, if you're pregnant or you've got a kid, they have to help you by the law. They have to help you, try and help you. And, you know, just because I haven't got a 2-year-old, or, you know, I'm not pregnant, I don't want to have children yet, but, you know, it's still...
I wasn't in a position to have children, like,
yeah, exactly. I want stabilisation, you know. I'm not putting myself back in a position where I've had to grow up through trauma and shit. I'm not going to bring someone into that world to be put through that, ever. Like, I'm not going to. So yeah, I was massively neglected by the system. Speak about it all day, because honestly, it winds me up, and this government does not help. And I think the government make poor, make the rich, but, you know, this benefit system is jokes, because so many people I know just sit.
It doesn't make any sense, does it?
Blows my mind, because, you know, sometimes I'm like, what the fuck have I done wrong? Like, what have I done to deserve this? Like, all I'm trying to do is better myself.
It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
You was neglected, like, by the system in a different, in a medical sense, would you say?
Yeah, so basically from my end, I had children I was pregnant at 22 and I had my first baby at 23. And obviously we live in a world now where there's no such thing as, if you're in a couple, you can't have a stay-at-home mum, because we can't afford it. Both parents need to be working. Yeah. And so I kind of felt like I was forced a little bit to go back to work before my 1-year maternity ended. Yeah. And by me doing that, you know, having a first child is quite difficult. You don't get given a manual. Like, it's kind of, here's a baby, go home and learn for yourself. Yeah. Which, whatever, we made that choice that was up to us.
Yeah.
So fine. But at the same time, like I say, feeling forced to go back to work, not even understanding myself and why I was feeling the way I was at times, not speaking up about it, my own family not even recognising these signs within me.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know what I was doing, and I'm not afraid to admit it. It took me a lot to adjust. You know, I was the youngest sibling, and I was the first one to have a baby. So it's not like I'd ever even been around other children or had any experience whatsoever. And I think people kind of get on at you, kind of say, you know, when you have your baby, second that baby's born in your arms, you'll feel just some like crazy mad rush of love. And I was just kind of waiting for it, and I didn't feel that. And I was thinking, you know, I kind of expected it at this point because of how many people would tell me that's what I would feel. And when it come down to it, I didn't feel that, and I was thinking, you know, is something wrong? Anyway, several weeks go down the line, still not feeling this great bond. I mean, cut a long story short, I never had my real dad around. Like, it was always my mum, a single parent. So, you know, it was always quite difficult in a sense. So I didn't know if it had kind of some relation with that. But yeah, it took me a while to kind of feel that bond. And, you know, things that should feel like a blessing felt more like a chore. And it's really awful to say, because they say that first child, test the child. And I know we all feel that, but I was having like severe postnatal depression, and I didn't even know that. I was going to work and dealing with it and reacting to things, or, you know, overreacting to things, you could say. And it wasn't until one day, one of the other staff members, because I was there caring for other people when I couldn't even care for myself in a sense.
Yeah.
And one of the staff workers pulled me aside and she said, you know, do you not maybe feel like you could be going through postnatal depression? And it wasn't until then I actually started to do my own research and look into it, because I'd previously gone to the doctor and I tried to tell him how I was feeling, and you get 10 minute slots at the doctor's, and I'd barely even walked through the door and he was already pushing me back out of it. He just said to me, here's a number, IAPT, call them. So I just kind of felt like I was being pushed off to other people. IAPT, I mean, it may have helped some, but it didn't help me. Like I say, I went to see this doctor and I barely walked in the door and he was already pushing me out of it. And I just kind of felt so frustrated, and again, that just makes me look like I'm not doing a good enough job.
And I think as well, you've gone to the doctor, you know, you're trying to open up your feelings, which
was hard anyway,
hard
yeah.
enough.
Especially for somebody like me. I used to struggle to tell somebody I loved them because of past trauma issues I've genuinely had anyway, growing up without a dad and not having that father figure around. And yeah, so I mean, having it, I mean, I'm very traumatized in a sense, you could say. So you're right, opening up for me was a big deal, and feeling like I wasn't being heard or listened to, and made out like I was being a little bit over dramatic in a sense.
It just felt like a little bit like a slap in the face, kind of.
I felt like a burden, like I was just getting in the way at this point. You know, you've just got to figure it out on your own, and that's exactly what I kind of had to do. So 6 months after I'd given birth to my first child, I actually started to recognise that maybe this is postnatal depression. And that's when I went to the doctor. He forwarded me to IAPT. And yeah, it didn't do much for me. It was genuinely a case of do your own research, learn for yourself, and go from there kind of thing. So yeah, it was difficult. Also, going back to being ADHD, not even knowing that was really a thing at this time. Like, it's only because of my own research now I've started to realise I am ADHD. I'm in referral for that, have been for 3 years. They put my referral in for that late, so I should be 3 years down the line now, but I'm only a year and a half down the line, and it's like a 3-year waiting list. So that on its own is difficult. And then again with the whole ADHD, it's only since I had my child, he was diagnosed autism last year, that I started to recognise more symptoms within myself.
Okay, yeah.
So, you know, I've always questioned my own kind of behaviour, the way that I think. Since I was a child, I always thought I was very different, which is quite clear in a lot of ways. But feeling like that as a child, that's quite traumatic on its own. And ADHD is what I've learned, it can be developed from child trauma.
Okay.
So it does make sense. It makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Still haven't had a diagnosis till this day. I've self-diagnosed myself because now I know what it is. I've had to do my own research. I've had to learn that for myself. But again, like, some of these questions, some of these issues and problems could have been solved a long time ago if somebody just heard me to begin with. And not only that, with Regan having a diagnosis, they should be straight away focusing on the parent.
Yeah.
Where is this inherited from? Where has this come from? Because, I mean, Regan, that was amazing. Like, I can't fault them in the slightest. I've heard stories of children being in referral for, years and not getting the help they need. Me being one of them children. But with Regan, my eldest child, he actually got support really fast, and that was thanks to my childminder. She really put her foot down and got the ball rolling in a sense. But yeah, it took a long time for me to actually understand myself, and I used to really struggle with my own emotions and controlling myself and just dealing with everyday life. Luckily, I've got a really good co-parent, so the children's dad is such a good guy, and he really did step up and step in massively. But what if he wasn't around? Like, what would the situation be? Would I have had the social services on my case telling me I'm not doing a good enough job? There's so many questions I ask myself. Luckily, I have done my own research and I have kind of learnt myself, and I used to want medicating. I used to want to be able to solve these situations, antidepressants to solve the postnatal depression, ADHD medication to help with ADHD. Now I don't want any of that.
Because you've learnt yourself.
Purely because I've had no choice but to learn about these things for myself. So I've taken other remedies, home remedies. And I think a lot of it is just the control of the mind.
Yeah.
And one thing for me is I do follow a lot of ADHD accounts and, social media pages and things like that. So I can relate to a lot of things that I didn't even realise other people felt. And it's took years, but now I know myself, and now I don't want medicating, and now I'm happy with the person that I am. But it should not have taken as long as what it did for me to feel like a normal fucking person.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
100%. And if you could be that person, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out here, maybe a few people watching this that are like, oh, actually I can relate to you, but what advice would you give to someone that potentially is feeling like, maybe that there's something more to myself, or maybe thinking what advice would you give to someone that's trying to, because the NHS is shocking at the minute.
I'd say don't rely on anybody but yourself. That is genuinely, and I know it can be quite pessimistic in a sense, because I know the NHS they ain't all bad, they can help in a lot of ways. But in my case and my own personal experience, I couldn't rely on them. We can get mistaken as being lazy, very hyperactive, and at school you would have been like the class clown, or you're easily distracted. You're just a bit of a naughty child. So I can labelled a little bit, but it's a lot deeper than that.
Yes,
and there's reasons that's behind as to why you are acting the way you are, and there's ways of fixing it. But you need to understand yourself first in order to fix that. And it's took me years and years and years to be able to understand myself. And now I know what I'm doing. And I've never been so content with my life and where I'm going with it.
You are.
But that's because of me.
Yeah.
That's because of me. The way your brain functions, it's just different to a neurotypical, and it's okay, but you just need to understand yourself. I tend to think I've got superpowers. Things at a deeper level, you can pick up on vibes. It's crazy, actually. It's crazy. You've got your positives and your negatives, but your positives outweigh any neurotypical. And I can honestly put my hand on the heart and say that. But then again, your negative, so for instance, your neurotypical is feeling depressed, your neurodivergent is feeling depressed, you can bet that your neurodivergent is feeling it at a lot more of a deeper level. So postnatal depression for me was hard. So again, feeling pushed away, feeling like you've already getting in the way anyway, feeling like a burden, but then genuinely being pushed away pillar to post. We're not your help you need to go see these people. We're not the help you need to go see these people. And it's just who the fuck is here to help me? I
can relate to that, because that was kind of like me with my housing situation. The feeling of having a home got me so excited, then to be told, sorry, someone else has been given it, or you haven't been accepted, and it's like, you're just constantly from that. And like I said, if I didn't have that inheritance that I did have, I don't know where I would have been. Would I have been forced to quit my job so I had a roof over my head? Would I, been forced to put that career on hold just so I could get somewhere, do you know?
Yeah.
And it's just hard. So I completely understand where you feel on the sense of you get passed from pillar to post.
You do, generally.
The same as well with your advice. You have no one but yourself. You actually don't have anyone
You have
but
no one to
yourself.
fall back on.
You really don't.
When you're pregnant, you should have several midwife appointments, kind of checking up on your pregnancy, making sure baby's healthy, developing, you're at the weight, or, your BMI is okay. See, my midwives failed to actually do that. I think I got seen once throughout my whole pregnancy. When my second child, I didn't get seen at all. So then when I had an appointment come through the other month about my 2-year-old's development at this stage. So is she walking, talking? Is she basically developing as and when she should be?
Yeah.
Which is great. But I missed that appointment, and then I had another letter come through the post and say to me, you've missed your appointment. If you don't attend this appointment, you will have the social services basically on your case. And that really got my back up, because I'm thinking, where was you before?
Literally,
You've left me.
2 years?
You've left me to do this on my own, which I've been absolutely fine with.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you give a shit.
Yeah.
And if I don't turn up and I'm not kind of bowing at your orders, I'm not doing a good enough job as a parent. So I find it quite, it's like a bit of a nerve, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Don't not care about what's going on, especially when I'm coming to you for help, being pushed away, and then when I don't need you, getting on my case saying you need to come and see us, you need to tell us how you're getting on, you need to tell us what development your children are at, are you doing a good enough job as a parent? And it's how dare you?
Literally.
You don't care. You genuinely do not give a shit. At this point, you're only covering your own back.
And this is just another thing to tick off that list that they've done, to say that they've done. It's everything that actually needed you for, you haven't been here.
Yeah.
When like you said, when I don't need you, now you want to know me kind of situation.
Yeah.
Always just comes back to the system that is in place, all of it.
You have to fit a certain, a certain image, or you have to kind of, what is it, a curriculum.
You have to meet a criteria.
There's
criteria.
So you have to basically fill a certain criteria in order to get the help you need. And if you don't fill that, then you're on your own.
Literally.
You're out for yourself, and that's why,
It's so frustrating. So many old people are you have it so easy these days and all of this, and I'm literally sat there say that to me again, please do not, because you really don't know. And there's so many people out here that probably could relate to our situation, and if you have experienced anything like this, then message us anytime, because I will talk to anyone about it, because
me
the
too.
system needs to change, and this is why we are here. If we can help one person and feel like someone can relate to, and just bring an understanding and bring this to the light of the world, because I feel like a lot of people as well are very blessed and don't really.
Luckily, I am strong enough to be able to think, there is brighter days ahead, but not everybody can feel that, and not everybody can even be that positive. So what is this leading to? What comes after this? When does it get better? Because not for everybody it doesn't. And that's why, I don't want to get too deep, but suicide rates, they are heightening massively and rapidly. And it's just...
The support system is not what we need it to be.
No.
This country, even as a kid, you can just see it's just got, to put it in the best words, it's gone to shit.
Yeah.
But the country has utterly, completely, in every system way, police, school system, the police system, the school system, the social care system, the NHS, the health system, the government, everything, standards and everything is just dropped in I'd love to, it was a joke in the last one, I'd love to become Prime Minister, but I'd love to make a change.
You'd probably do a better job. Because you felt it. I mean, the government today, they're born into a wealthy, rich life, and
literally
9 times out of 10, they haven't even felt the trauma that the people they're trying to save have felt. And literally. I mean, let's be honest, they're not even trying to save them. Again, like you said, they're making the rich richer and the poor poorer. And that's as simple as that.
Young people, they're put on the most minimum wage, but then they're shoved with, like, you know, the most expensive car insurance bill and that kind of thing. And it's like, the system doesn't work. You have to have at least 30,000 to have a deposit for a house these days, even though you're paying rent from what more than what a mortgage would be.
For example, I've been paying like £850 a month rent for the last 3 years now, and that is a lot more than what a mortgage would be these days. But no, you're not allowed a mortgage because you can't afford it. I'm sorry, what?
Okay, we could talk about this all day. Maybe if you want to hear more about it, we will do another episode on it, because I feel like we could speak.
Absolutely. I thank myself because if it wasn't,
yourself on the back.
If it wasn't for me, like, I genuinely would be in a fucking hole. You know, I've had to kind of just learn along the way who I am as a person and how to deal with these things, going from ADHD to postnatal depression. Like, genuinely, these issues could have been helped a long time ago, but they wasn't. I'm nearly 30 years old and I'm only just starting to learn about myself. I don't know who makes all this shit, but they need to go to hell.
I agree with you there on that one. If there's any topics or if there's anything that you want us to elaborate more on, speak about more, because we've kind of like spoke about a few different things as well overall. We need to kind of make it clear in the sense that, the system may fail at times, but you are not on your own. Yeah. Like, it's the community around you that you want to rely on. So, you know, sometimes even a stranger, they can give a shit more than what these people who are supposed to care about actually care about. Don't let these things define you. Just do your research, buy a book, have a look, and continue with what you're doing.
Keep looking. Don't give up. Don't just kind of go to the medical system because they didn't give you the answers you needed. That's not the end of it. That's not game over. The answers are out there, but it's just about learning to understand yourself.
So I think that is the end of today's podcast. Obviously, we spoke about a lot, so let us know if you want us to elaborate on any more topics of what we spoke about today. But we will see you very soon.
I would actually love for people to come to me for advice.
Yes.
At times, if I can help, I most certainly will. Yeah. I'm no expert, but going off my own personal experiences, I would love to say, you know, I could direct you into the right way of going about things, and, you know, getting answers that you deserve in a sense, without feeling pushed off or like you are a burden or you're just getting in the way. Like, I've got 2 ears here and I'm happy to listen.
I love that. So, that is the end of today.
Yeah.
And we hope you have enjoyed, and we will see you very soon. Goodbye.
Back in that bag.